All right, today we're pulling back the curtain on CSS, one of the most fundamental technologies of the web. And we're not just throwing out opinions, oh no. We've got our hands on a fascinating document from the very people who build CSS, and it reveals all the things they wish they could go back and do differently. So let's just dive right in with this quote, shall we? I mean, look at it. It even has the little tongue-out emoji. This comes straight from the CSS Working Group's own wiki. It's basically their secret hit list, a totally candid admission of all the quirks and headaches that are baked right into the language we use every single day. You know, this isn't just some random rant on a blog. This is a super rare peek inside the minds of the actual standards committee. It shows us what they would fix if they had a time machine. Honestly, it's validation for anyone who's ever gotten totally stumped by a CSS problem and thought, am I crazy, or is this just weird? Okay, first up, let's talk about something we can all relate to, the names of things. You know, those property names that just don't feel right, or even worse, seem to describe the exact wrong thing. Well, let's start with a classic, border radius. So what does this property actually do? It rounds the corners of an element. It has nothing to do with the border, which you might not even have. And guess what? The working group agrees. They say corner radius would have made way more sense. And this next one, it's a little more subtle, but it's a great example. The property is called hyphens, which is a noun, but you're telling the browser to do something, to perform an action. So the verb hyphenate would have been a much better fit. And here's a little backstory for you. They actually wanted to use hyphenate, but another standards group for print style sheets objected. So hyphens it is. Ah, good old C index. We all get it now, but it's a pretty abstract term, right? The group wishes they had used something way more descriptive, like Z-order, or even better, just depth. Can you imagine? It would have made so much more sense from day one, clearly telling you you're stacking things up. And of course, we had to talk about this one, the infamous exclamation mark important. You know, in so many programming languages, the exclamation mark means not. So what does this look like? Not important. It's just a perfect example of sending the complete opposite signal of what you're trying to do. All right, now let's move on to the default settings. You know, the stuff that basically every developer on the planet immediately overrides in their CSS reset file for every single project. And the number one offender is, without a doubt, box sizing. By default, it's set to content box. So what does that mean? It means you say, I want this box to be 200 pixels wide, then you add 10 pixels of padding, and suddenly your box is actually 220 pixels wide on the screen. It's the cause of so many layout surprises. And this right here, this is the simple, beautiful world that could have been. The creators totally agree that it should have defaulted to border box. With this, padding and borders are counted inside the width you set. A 100 pixel box is a 100 pixel box. It just makes sense. And the wish list of better defaults just keeps going. Just imagine if backgrounds didn't automatically tile everywhere by default, or if setting background size 50% just worked for both directions. And that last one is huge. If percentage line heights inherited the percentage instead of a calculated pixel value, it would have saved us from countless responsive text headaches. Okay, so moving beyond simple default, we're now getting into the really weird stuff. Some of the behaviors in CSS that just make you scratch your head and go, wait, why does it do that? Turns out the creators are asking the same question. So if you've ever torn your hair out because your vertical margins just seem to disappear into thin air, well, you're not alone. The CSS Working Group literally, and this is a direct quote, calls this behavior the root of all margin collapsing evil. Wow. So what is this evil? Well, it's what happens when you have an element, usually an empty one, that has a margin on the top and on the bottom. Instead of creating space for itself, the two margins just collapse together. They pass right through the element like a ghost, creating these really weird, unexpected gaps in your layout. It's one of the most confusing things in CSS, for sure. Here's another one. We've all been there, right? You've got your color set up perfectly with RGB. Then you decide, you know what, I just want to add a little transparency. And what do you have to do? You have to go and change the entire function name to RGBA just to add that one last value. It's just annoying. And the fix they wish they had implemented is just so simple and elegant. They should have just made the alpha channel an optional fourth value from the very beginning for both RGB and HSL. No extra functions, just a smarter original. So much cleaner. All right, let's zoom out a bit and look at some of the bigger, more architectural problems. We're talking about the really fundamental rules for how we arrange things on a page and stack them. It's pretty telling how many core layout ideas are on this list. They wish vertical align worked differently or at least had a more honest name. But the huge one, the real game changer, is z-index. They wish you could just apply z-index to any element to control its stacking order, not just ones that are positioned. Just think of all the layout hacks we could throw away if that were true. And now we come to the really big ones, the grand what-ifs. These aren't just little quirks anymore. These are foundational architectural decisions that, if they'd gone the other way, would have given us a completely different CSS today. And there's really no better example than this. It's blunt, it's perfect, and it's something every web developer has screamed at their screen for decades. The creators of CSS simply wished that table layout should be sane. That's it. That's the whole wish. Nothing more needs to be said. And these are just massive. Imagine if setting height 50% on an element just worked, without that whole song and dance of making sure every single parent element has a height set. Or what about error handling? Right now, if you list a bunch of selectors and just one of them is invalid, the browser throws out the entire rule. Their wish is that it would just ignore the bad part and apply the styles to the rest, which would make CSS so much more robust and future-proof. So, after seeing this whole laundry list of regrets, what's the takeaway? It's not that CSS is bad. Not at all. What it shows is that CSS is a living, breathing language that was built by real people. It has a long, messy history full of compromises and browser wars and changing needs. And really, this whole list is a huge validation. It means that the next time you're banging your head against the wall trying to figure out why your margins are collapsing, you can take comfort in knowing that the very people who designed the language are right there with you, wishing it worked a little differently too. You're not alone. And that really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? Knowing that even the experts have their own list of regrets, if you could get in that time machine and go all the way back to the beginning to fix just one thing in the design of CSS, what would it be?